Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no
All my memories of love hang upon high stars.
All the souls I've lost to tears now the autumn jars. And the air around me here thickens with their song. Sing again their nameless tunes, sing again and strong.
Willows in September touch the water clear, set among the rushes tall of the flowing year. Rising up from sunlit past comes a shadowed sky, running toward me silently, love to fortify. Many are the graceful buds hung upon this tree, and it seems there's room for
that no longer will we live in fear.
We're just finishing setting up a few things outside. We'll be commencing shortly.
Good morning. You may have noticed that there's a little pause between the prelude and when we're starting. That's because there's so much excitement going on here, and we're still in the midst of planning. So thank you for coming. We start this service, as we start all of our services, by ringing the bell 3 times. The first, we ring because we are on the unceded land of the Muwekma tribe of the Ohlone people. The Ohlone people were displaced, colonized, and their land was taken. Now they seek to regain their land as well as find ways to pass on their heritage and their customs and their culture to their descendants. Everything that we do to restore their rights and equality and sovereignty is working our way back into covenant. The second bell we ring to call us back into relationship with ourselves, our families, our community, and the wider world. What we do helps to restore the bonds that link each to all. We intentionally gather to invite an ever-widening circle of compassion, commitment, and solidarity until we are all beloved. And the third bell calls us into relationship with our children and our children's children out to the 7th generation, reminding us that what we do now or what we fail to do will be felt by those who come after us.
Good morning. My name is Ariel Smithier, and since March, I have been with you as your religious education coordinator. I'm still meeting folks here and there and getting to know you and what you do and what you dream of doing, but already I see something here that is worthwhile and worthy. From what I've learned, this congregation at one point was filled with young people. I truly delight to know that this congregation was formed from members of a children's play group. That's such a special and unique founder story. Over the years, parents who had children to care for were looking for a place where such care could be provided, shared, where care could be the central reason why the community existed. They wanted their children to grow up in that kind of care. But at one point, many of those parents and caregivers left because of transitions and COVID and all sorts of reasons. For many, it was really hard to see them go, and maybe harder still to wonder if it could ever be like it used to be again. I know from talking to people that there were some serious doubts. But today, we have a child dedication ceremony, and we are welcoming and dedicating not 1, not 2, but 3 children and families. I hope you can feel the joy of this moment. I do. I want to challenge you this morning to think of this not as the remnants of something old and revered that once was, but as the emergence of something new and special that's coming to be. No one knows what it will look like. That depends on us and how we treat it. I do believe what is truly valuable gets attention, and what gets attention grows. Come, let us worship together. And I'm still here to say some more. In the spirit of growing new things, we're going to begin a new practice with our chalice lighting. Rather than have our traditional words, which are lovely and will sometimes be spoken on occasion, we're going to have different people help us light the chalice. And in doing so, tell us a little bit about themselves and why they come to be here with this community of people. So, I already told you, I'll be the first one. My name is Ariel Smith-Iyer, and I come here because I have children I adore. And because I also adore children who are not mine, but who are ours. I come here because I know holding on to a piece of the future feels like a lifeline that fills me with meaning and purpose. It gives me a light that I believe is needed in this world. I light this chalice so that that light can shine.
Good morning. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Valerie. I'm a member of the board, and my pronouns are she and her. We are glad you've joined us this morning. I'm going to start out by highlighting some announcements. Hello, Annette. So good to see you. That's one of the announcements. Thanks to everyone who participated and contributed to the backpack drive last week. Today, besides the dedication, Mission Peak is having a picnic after the service at Lake Elizabeth, Site D2. There are maps on the back door and some on the welcome table with the location circled. It's a lovely spot, but a bit of a walk. So if you see folks going to the site and maybe needing some help carrying things, please offer to do. If you have any questions, check with Ariel or Reverend Greg or the Arrow team members. Zoomers, web host David Gibbons will have the rooms open for you after the picnic, and so you can have a virtual picnic together. The membership committee has organized a new 2UU class that will be held after the service on Sunday, August 27th, for people who are interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism and this congregation. To sign up or to ask any questions you may have about the class, please email membership@mpuuc.org or stop by the welcome table. Please silence your electronic devices. Oops, I forgot. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are all coming at truth from different paths. Together, we see our job is to love the hate out of the world, heal the hurt in ourselves and in one another, and to be the change we'd like to see in the world. If you're our guest for the first time, and we're so glad we have some, hello, Gloria, we welcome you. Here's a bit of information about our hybrid services and how they work. There's a choice and concerns book on the table over there if you have something that you'd like to share in the congregation. Zoomers will put their thoughts into the chat, and all of this will be read during the service. Normally, we have a social hour after the service where we get to visit with each other out on the porch, but today, most of us are going to go to the to the picnic if you need something to drink. There's a cart over at the right-hand, your left. The worship host will give you more information about the Zoom rooms, thank you, David, immediately after the service, Zoomers. Someone from our membership team will put a link to our weekly newsletter in the chat so you can see all the events coming up. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@mpuuc.org, to request a newsletter or other information to be sent to you. If you're here in person, our welcome table is right by the door, and you can ask any questions you may have. We are so glad you are here today. And now we get to greet everyone. If you would, wave, and the folks in Zoomlandia will wave, and we all have a moment of togetherness. Thank you all for being here.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Careful before you sit down, because we're all going to stand up again. This is the very special part of our service that we have been looking forward to for a long time. This is where we dedicate our children. So We're going to do this outside because it's a special request of the families who have brought their children to be dedicated. So, going to ask you to flow outside and with as much creativity and compassion as you can muster, find a place where you can see what's going on and without blocking the camera so that the people online can see. And we'll take just a couple minutes for everybody to flow out there. Careful of the cord. Can I give this to you for a second? Just hold on to that.
It's a little further out, so you can see the camera up there.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. Do we have sound? Izzy, can you hear us? Can you hear? Yeah? Can you see yourself up there? Okay, hopefully you've got a space where you're mildly comfortable for a few minutes, and you have that little paper that Dawn passed out when we got here, because we're going to do a responsive reading. So please join us in that. If you're online, the words will appear in the chat. Leaders will read the bold portion, and the congregation will respond in unison with the italicized version. The great end in religious education is not to stamp our minds upon the young, but to stir up their own. Not to make them see with our eyes, but to look inquiringly and steadily with their own.
Not to give them a definite amount of knowledge, but to inspire a fervent love of truth.
Not to outward regularity, but to hush in restraint. Not to bind them to a specific set of prejudices or particular notions of our particular set.
We obviously can't read.
Not to burden the memory, but to quicken and strengthen the power of thought.
Mommy.
To impose religion upon them in the form of arbitrary rules, but to awaken
The conscience, the moral discernment. In a word, the great end is to awaken the soul, to excite and cherish spiritual life.
Well, that went surprisingly well. We are really excited to be offering this child dedication and welcoming these children into the special care of this community. Many of us have attended ceremonies or rituals like this, perhaps in more traditional Christian context. What we do in Unitarian Universalism differs slightly from more traditional or sacramental religious ceremonies like a christening or a baptism. In the Catholic tradition, a baptism is a sacrament to prepare a child for salvation. In the Orthodox Protestant tradition, such ceremonies remove original sin. Each of these includes some type of sacramental anointing, symbolically channeling power or divinity or purity from God or the church onto the child.
In UUism, the tradition is different. We believe in original goodness or original blessing. instead of original sin. We believe every child is born as a blessing, and we don't believe that a child needs to be purified or cleansed in order to be worthy or holy. Exactly. Amen, brother. We are born good. Our job as the community who receives such children is to help them live into their goodness.
And that is worth celebrating. So in UUism, our ceremony doesn't channel power from on high to save the child. Here, we exercise our power, promising to show up and collectively create a place of acceptance and understanding and belonging. We believe that it is what is needed to help save the world. So we invite the child to recognize and employ their gifts and to join us in bringing more love into the world. Each child is born from love, with love, but they are not invincible or immortal. They need a lot of care, and they need a lot of support. In so many moments, in so many ways and styles, it is unrealistic for any one caregiver or a whole extended family of caregivers to do it all by themselves.
There is a familiar African proverb that says, "It takes a village to raise a child." Every child needs a dedicated village where a consistent array of opportunities abound for the child to receive appropriate attention, affection, affirmation, acceptance, and allowance to grow. You are the village that has been asked to provide such gifts for these children. Would you like to meet the children whose parents have asked for your care? Do you want to meet the kids?
I present to you Isabel Victoria Rose Newstrom, also known as Izzy. Izzy is 4 years old and has already been among us, living into her magnificence. She loves drawing pictures, building creatures out of Legos, and admiring puppies and babies. She wants to grow up to be a scientist who studies bugs, but not tarantulas, because they are not bugs. Izzy's mom, Lisa, is grateful for the love and care that she receives from Izzy's grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins and many loving friends, including special family friends, Valerie Stewart and Mr. Rich. She asks for this community to continue sharing with Izzy its many joys and talents, and to provide a space for her to continue to grow and seek ways to nurture wisdom and compassion and patience for herself and Izzy. Welcome, Isabel Victoria Rose Newstrom. I present to you Maya Shannon Ryan King. Maya is already 3 years old, and you have probably seen her making funny faces on Zoom. She has lately taken up jumping, and she has loved acting out stories with her toys since before she could even talk. Maya's parents, Eric and Allie, are supported by Maya's grandmothers, Celeste and Anna, as well as godparents, Elizabeth and Michael. Allie and Eric ask for Mission Peak to share their experiences and enthusiasm with Maya and to provide guidance and encouragement as she grows with this community. Welcome, Maya Shannon Ryan King. And I present to you the newest of our children in the community, Maxwell James Longfield, who was born this February and is fascinated by the world around him. He loves to laugh and is enjoying the process of trying new foods. Max's parents, Tiffany and Stephen, appreciate the support that they receive from Max's grandparents, Steve and Charlotte and Vanessa. They specifically have chosen Mission Peak to be part of their village and hope it can offer opportunities for Max to grow and learn from fellow members and friends. Welcome, Maxwell James Longfield. I'm going to ask Reverend Barbara to come and bring our water. This is the closest that we have to holy water. This is water that we gather from our water communion ceremony when we have our in-gathering service. Everybody pours a little bit of water in there, and when they pour their water in there, they also say a promise that they make that will help nurture this community. Please. And in those promises, we want to extend those blessings that we make to the community to our children, that they know that they are blessed. And they are blessed by the love and the hope and the promise of this community. I know you missed out, but not for long. There you go. Oops. I did your part, so you do my part. And then, can I have the stones?
There's more. To each child we give matching hearts. These represent the joys and concerns, sometimes known as the glads and sads, you will experience in your life. We want you to know that these two hearts are connected as we are connected to you. We ask that you take one of these hearts and keep it safe. Turn to it when you have a joy or concern you're feeling. The other half of this pair, the matching stone, will live in our stone garden, where we welcome all the joys and concerns we find in our shared community. We hope as you come up to share your joys and concerns that you'll look for your stone. And when you see it, you will know that your heart belongs here with us. In more traditional Christian circles, we would conclude with the Christian Trinity, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
In the Unitarian Trinity, we bless our children in the Trinity of freedom, reason, and tolerance.
And the Universalist Trinity, you are blessed in the name of love, hope, and courage. Welcome, Izzy, Maya, and Maxwell. So this concludes our outdoor portion. Thank you for coming out to join us. You're welcome to go back inside for a seat, and the children are welcome to join me for Children's Chapel out here in the corner.
Thank you.
We take up a collection on Sunday for the simple reason that our purpose in gathering is for more than ourselves. We want to make sure that the ministries that we need, the ones that infuse worth and dignity into our children, our youth, our programs of learning, and our leadership, and our ministries of anti-oppression, and our work in the larger world, are in a place to meet the needs of others. We hope you will make a contribution toward these worthy causes by mailing your check to Mission PQU Congregation at the address on the screen. You can also use Bill Pay option on your online banking or drop your check into Mission Peak mail slot or pay online with a credit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members, friends, and staff. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible.
One of the things that allows us to find hope and meaning, especially in the hard times, is the love and the support that we show each other. If you have a joy or a concern that you carry on your heart this morning and bring into this room, we invite you, if you are with us online, to write it into the chat, or if you are with us in person, to write it into the book. And we can speak it aloud to bring into the room in the caring of all souls. You may also wish, as the music plays for the Song of Reflection, to come up and place a stone in the stone garden. If you have a joy or concern that's more personal, then please invite you to speak with me or call or email or to connect with Reverend Barbara.
Hey, so there's ice in the car. Hard for me to move it. There's a couple of paper towels. I also bought us some paper towels because we need them.
These are the joys and concerns that are alive in our hearts and echoing around the sanctuary. These are the joys and concerns that are alive. We ask that we keep one another in our hearts and keep our arms, our hearts, our minds, and our doors open. Please join me in the spirit of this reflection. I'm going to ask us to explore something this morning. If you're online with us here, you can do this at home, the same as we're doing it here. I want everyone to relax, take a deep breath, put your feet on the ground if possible. I want you to just maybe even close your eyes so that you can maximize your senses and tune in to the radar of your awareness as we have some of these experiences. I am going to say a word, and I am going to repeat it several times. See if you can register what is happening in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your body, maybe even in your soul as this word is repeated. Pay attention. Ready? Here's the words. No. 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 Okay. Scan your body a little bit. Can you feel which muscles are tense, where you're holding that energy? Can you trace some of the thoughts that lurk at the edge of your mind, some of the feelings that rise up? Now take a deep breath. Feet still on the floor, and let's try that again. I'll repeat a word several times. Pay attention to your body, your thoughts, your feelings. Yes. 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 Let's pause before I get into the whole Meg Ryan thing, which is a completely different sermon. What shifted in your body? What thoughts came to mind? What feelings? Did it seem like those words created kind of an atmosphere or an attitude inside you? Did you notice which different muscles were called into play? Did you notice a shift in those muscles, a shift in your attention or the tension in your body when we switched words? Did you also have a shift in feelings? Now take a couple of long, deep breaths. Place one hand on your chest and one on your stomach. This is a well-known somatic exercise to regulate or re-regulate. Now let's journey into silence. Call to mind someone who has loved you deeply, someone who has given you solace or sanctuary, who provides a sense of belonging. where might you wish for them to live between the space created by those two words? Now think of someone who you love, someone maybe who depends on you, maybe someone who struggles, but you want very much for them to thrive. Place them somewhere in the energy between the spaces that you have created in those two words. And finally, call to mind someone who's maybe a little difficult. Maybe they call up in you feelings of hurt or resentment or fear. Find a place for them in these feelings of energy that you've experienced. What kind of energy can you radiate to each of these people? Is it different? Do you imagine that they respond to this energy differently? Now allow all of that energy to wash over. Thank these people who you brought into your awareness and let them go. And find the energy you want to share with yourself, with those around you, and with the world. Hold that energy into this silence.
How do you say to a child in the night, nothing's all black, but then nothing's all white? How do you say it will all be alright when you know that it mightn't be true? What do you do? What do you leave to your child when you're dead? Only whatever you put in its head. Things that your father and mother had said, which were left to them too. Careful what you say. Careful the things you say. Children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. what you can see. Better is you. Careful the tales you tell. That is the spell. Children listen.
Thank you to Peak Performers and to Shauna Pickett-Gordon and to Joanne Schreiner, who did the Song of Reflection medley. How many people were excited to have a child dedication this morning? How many have been part of child dedications before here? How many people have been part of child dedications in other traditions? How many like the way that we do it? How many people appreciated being asked by these families coming to dedicate their children, being asked to be part of the care and say yes to that caregiving? Did that feel like an honor? How many people are aware of what you just got yourself into? If you said yes to being part of the love and care of these children's lives and their future, it means you will likely have a hand grab hold of you at the picnic that is covered in jam, or have a cup of juice spilled in your lap. You might find yourself buying gold stars at the store so that you can see the face of someone who finds one on their drawing. Or you might find said drawing on your refrigerator and have to explain to your grown children whose picture that is and why you never put their picture on your refrigerator. Or you might find yourself unexplainably falling hopelessly in love with something that is not yours, but for whom you worry and you wonder and you pray, even though as a Unitarian you're not completely sure what that means. And you might find yourself part of not so good things, hurts and fears and jealousies and tears, and being asked to referee in a discussion of about 5 different emotions all tangled up into one tirade about how they made this craft project that somebody mistakenly attributed to somebody else, or how someone else used their rock during joys and concerns. All of this is where yes brain is essential. Yes to the mess. Yes to the confusion. Yes to the chaos. Yes to the drama. Yes to the hurt. Yes to the fear and the worry and the love. Yes does not mean that you agree with the messes and that they should be made. It doesn't mean that it's okay to have a red crayon drawing of a princess on the wall just because it's so beautiful, or that you agree that the person who took the last juice box deserves to die. Your yes is a little different. Our children, and I very much say that as the children that are raised by the love promised them by this congregation, our children did not come into this world with original sin. They came into this world through original blessing. They were blessed by and made for love. They know love inside and out because they are love incarnate. They think it, they feel it, they show it, they crave it, they deserve it, and they will scream to wake the dead if they don't get it. And all of that is an original, albeit unrefined, understanding of yes brain love. No brain love is what comes later in life when someone treats you thoughtlessly, perhaps even cruelly, and you just let them. No brain comes after we have been the recipient of neglect and disregard for so long, we come to believe we deserve it. That is no brain. The other day I came across a description of what it means to be born into this world that completely resonated with me. It's from Father Richard Rohr, from his blog, where he describes what he calls awakening to our true self. He says this: I believe God gives us our soul, our deepest identity, our true self, our unique blueprint at our own conception. Our unique little bit of heaven is installed within the product by the manufacturer at the beginning. We are given a span of years to discover it, to choose it, and to live out our destiny to the fullest. If we do not, our true self will never be offered again in this same unique, magnificent form which was presented to us as a gift. The trouble is, it almost always takes us just a little time and a lot of help to fully recognize and appreciate the incredible gift that the soul is, how it works, and how to say yes to its place inside us. Much of what I want to share with you today is drawn from the ideas of The Yes Brain, a book by Dr. Daniel J. Siegel and Dr. Tina Payne Bryson. I am a huge fan of Daniel Siegel. He has many books out there. He is a child psychologist or psychiatrist who specializes in the neurobiology of brain development and attachment theory of growing children. He is also a parent and a practitioner of mindfulness training. It was his exercise that I shared with you earlier when we explored the physical and the psychological and even the spiritual impact of hearing yes or no, and what it feels like to be caught up in that yes or no brain state. During decades of extensive research in attachment theory and learning, Dan discovered that though all children are born blessed with gifts that are capable of singing yes, they may find themselves in environments where the instruments are tuned to and the music is written in the key of no. He discovered that when kids learn to work from yes brain mentality, they are more flexible, they're more open to compromise, they're more willing to take chances and explore, they're more curious, more imaginative, less worried about making mistakes. They're also less rigid and less stubborn, which makes them better at relationships and more adaptable and resilient when it comes to handling adversity. They understand themselves and develop a clear internal compass with less self-doubt and self-criticism. And that shows up in the respectful way that they tend to treat others. Guided by their yes brain, they do more, they learn more, and they become more. They say yes to the world from a place of emotional equilibrium, welcoming all that life offers, even when circumstances don't necessarily go their way. Siegel's studies discovered that our yes brain operates out of a particular region of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. This is an area that constantly integrates new information and links various circuitry and regions of the brain into collaborative higher order thinking. It is where the complexity of emotion is registered and processed. It is where we notice feelings like curiosity, or summon resilience, or demonstrate compassion, and find the capacity for insight, open-mindedness, the ability to change our mind, problem solving, and even morality. A no brain, in contrast, emerges from a different, less developed, more primitive area of the brain. It is the same part of the brain that scans for safety on average 4 times per second. It is the part of the brain monitoring threat. As a result, it tends to operate very instantaneous and is very reactive and defensive. Our no brain constantly worries that it might make a mistake or that curiosity will lead to some kind of trouble. And in this state, our no brain can go on the offense too, pushing back on new knowledge and fighting off input from others. Attacking and rejecting are 2 ways the no brain deals with this world. The no brain's outlook on the world is one of stubbornness, anxiety, competition, and threat, leaving it much less capable of handling difficult situations or achieving a clear understanding of self and others. Kids who approach the world from a no-brain state are at the mercy of their circumstances and their feelings. They get stuck in emotions. They're unable to shift from them, and they complain about realities rather than finding healthy alternatives to respond. The different brain states we experienced in the guided meditation felt different because they actually stem from different parts of our brain. Now take a minute to consider that most kids in their real formative years spend about 7 hours a day locked into regimented traditional school environments, full of rules, standardized tests, rote memorization, bullying, and one-size-fits-all disciplinary techniques. All of this often favors no-brain activity. On top of that, consider that how after school, many of these same kids jump into packed schedules trying to keep up with the extracurricular enrichment activities of their peers. And then they spend hours with digital games and media, which capture their attention in predominantly no-brain activities. If all of this is part of our children's reality, no wonder they need dedicated communities of care and encouragement like this one, places that specialize in the pedagogy of developing their own mind instead of being stamped by convention. If we are blessed to have our children among us when they are young, we need to know their higher order brain, their prefrontal cortex, is still in formation. It's still developing. We need to know that they're going inevitably to run into situations like when their so-called friend blurts out the punchline of the joke that they were in the midst of telling. Developing kids will occasionally flip their lid, a term Dan Siegel uses to describe what happens when the lower order prefrontal cortex tends to override our higher prefrontal cortex and turn over or flip their lid so that our reactive brain is more dominant. That may result in fight, where our urgency gets pushed into stuck emotions, or flight, where running becomes the answer instead of employing creative thinking. This is where caregivers, or those who have made promises to care, come in. Not to force children into the right choice, but to help them reflect and respond rather than react. Explore options and feelings and the feelings of others that might get overlooked. Siegel and Bryson encourage caregivers who want to empower kids to consider the 4 S's. Figure out how to help young learners feel safe. De-escalate the primitive brain's heightened sense of threat. Help them to feel seen. Mirror their experiences and let them know that you recognize their motivations and their feelings. Soothe them. Be a calm, grounded presence equipped with lots of resources. And remind them, even though it's a challenging moment, that they're secure. Let them know, you got this, and we'll figure it out together. These 4 S's, practiced consistently in the same place by the same people, can create a place of what's called secure attachment. Secure attachment, whether it's associated with a particular caregiver or a place of caregiving, is one of the most positive indicators of success in life. Children who grow up with at least one major source of secure attachment are statistically more likely to thrive in relationships, do well in their families and uphold relationships lifelong, enjoy community, have successful vocations, and have high lifetime earnings, even high lifespan. Being in the company of people who have a wide window of tolerance can help young learners face the inevitable challenges of growing up. And the goals outlined in this book is to give children a good helping of BRIE. Not the cheese, but the acronym. B, which stands for balance, helping young learners discover a wide breadth of emotions and resources, skills and strategies. R, resilience, teaching our children when we flip our lid, and we all do from time to time, to return to a place of flexibility, maybe doing a self-regulating exercise where we can consider new and better options. I, of insight, to help young people know themselves and develop self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-allowance, so that we don't need to feel like we're perfect to feel like we belong. And E, empathy, so every child develops a pathway of connection and understanding with other people based on common needs and feelings. If we can help our children here develop these 4 things, balance, resilience, insight, and empathy, we can give them the superpower they need to build their own yes brain world. Of course, I hope you recognize and realize that we don't do all of this. We don't say yes to these families bringing their children here, asking our promise to love and care for them out of pure beneficence and altruism. There is a little self-interest. For who here can claim that their world, or even just the space between their ears, is exclusively yes brain territory? We're all still learning, still foreclosing on the no brain tenants renting space in our heads, still trying to forgive that one boy who took the last juice box. Remember back just about 5 years ago in this community when an interim minister came and started reading from what sounded like the No Brain Playbook, with rules of how it all should be and the various reasons why we were all doing it wrong. I think it's possible she might not have been the only one coming from a No Brain Playbook, but the no that came out landed hard, and it hurt, and people tensed, and we reacted. Remember how the 4 F's showed up? Fight wasn't the first one. That took a while to come into play. And flight also took a little time too, but when it came in droves. The reaction started here, as I understand it, with freeze and faint, a lethargy that took the wind out of everything. And then COVID came with all its own rules and restrictions, practically screaming no in every direction. The religious education program here at Mission Peak has never recovered from these tempests of no. It was literally heartbreaking to watch, but for none more than the care team, who stood faithfully by, doing their best to stay true to their promise to love these children. They patched over holes in the program as best they could, but they could not keep families from falling through the cracks left by the diaspora. This past January, the loyalty remained strong among those on the care team, but almost no children came. We said goodbye to Sean and put an ad in the paper for a new religious educator. That's when we got a call from someone that I'd known before, named Ariel Smith Iyer. If you have met Ariel, you know what a yes brain tour de force she is. How spending time with her is heart-opening. But on her first meeting with the care committee, the chair resigned after holding everything together almost single-handedly for several years. So Ariel arrived in a place that had heart but no momentum and no vision and no children or youth. Ariel was brought in to revitalize the RE program, but she soon realized that to revitalize a program, she needed to revitalize the church itself. It's sort of like what Carl Sagan says, if you want to make an apple pie from scratch, you have to first invent the universe. In her short time here, she has organized potlucks, outreach events, craft events, game nights, and collaborations with other churches. Today, she helped organize this dedication that we held and the picnic after the service. For months, Ariel has been here saying yes and listening for a response. Sometimes our hesitancy has been confusing. Ariel mentioned recently that she's happy to be here and to do this work, but she doesn't necessarily resonate with the title of Religious Education Coordinator, mostly because, truthfully, there is no religious education program here. So leading a program that doesn't exist is sort of confusing, and trying to fit what she's doing now into what happened years before she arrived feels like trying to bring yes-brain energy into a no-brain container. So she is trying out new, bigger ways of understanding how to say yes, how to bring people into conversation with one another. She is trying out program names like faith formation and multi-generational community building. These are just some of the ideas. And she is inviting new folks to come in and help her reimagine what it all might look like. In short, Ariel is suggesting it might be time for a new conversation, one that invites creativity, resilience, receptivity. And she's doing it all because she sees something in us, something it seems we may not always see in ourselves. To explain what I mean, I want to end with this story. It's a true story, at least I like to believe it's true. It's a story that took place in Thailand about 1,000 years ago. A temple was built there with a huge solid gold Buddha. Some years after establishing the temple, word came that an army was about to invade the village, and so the members of the temple covered their gold Buddha with mud so that it just looked like an ordinary clay Buddha, so the army wouldn't be tempted to steal it. They hoped to trick the army into believing that it had no value, and it worked. The army rolled in, saw the clay Buddha, paid it very little mind, and they went about plundering other things. The army, however, stayed and occupied the village for many generations. And eventually there came a time when nobody even remembered that the clay Buddha was gold. In the mid-1950s, a new highway from Bangkok was routed through the ancient village, and the monks there were forced to relocate to a new temple. The massive clay Buddha needed to be moved, and a crane was brought in. But when the crane began to lift the Buddha, its huge weight shifted, and the clay began to crack. They quickly lowered the statue to the ground, fearing that it might break apart, and knowing a storm was coming, they covered it all with a tarp. And later that evening, the abbot went to inspect the damage and make sure the Buddha wasn't getting wet. And as he shone his flashlight under the tarp, he noticed a gleam, reflected light shining back beneath the large crack. And then he looked more carefully, and he scratched, and he realized what he was looking at. And he smiled. In this life, never forget you are the golden Buddha. Inside and outside of you is golden. You were born in original goodness. But as you went to school and you learned a certain way to live, a certain way to love, bit by bit, a casing of mud began to cover your Buddha nature. You even started to believe that you are clay and not golden. But eventually you found a way to see past the negations and the projections of this world and to discover a deeper truth. I promise you, once you realize that beneath all the mud and clay, you are golden, you will want to be golden forever. And you will spend the rest of your life shining to the glory of life. Please stand and join in singing our final hymn, Just
as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life.
Please join me in reading these words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The people around you and in the world, never forget you are golden. Under the mud and clay of this world, you shine. And once you realize that is your true nature, you will spend your whole life shining to the glory of life. We'll see you at the picnic.